I'm Troy with Marks on TV, and today I'm back to talk about all things episodes 3 and 4 of The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power on Amazon Prime, and I'm giving my opinions along the way. Before we begin, please consider liking the video, leaving a comment about how you feel about the most expensive show ever and how they're doing after the first half of the first season, and subscribe to my channel. Now, on with the show. These episodes were split into multiple parts per usual, so let's start with the Harfoots and the Wizard. So, Nori Brandyfoot breaks into Sadok Burrow's tent and steals a piece of paper out of his big book that talks about constellations. She wants to show it to the wizard guy so that he maybe can have a breakthrough and find what he's looking for. Well, the wizard guy is apparently still figuring out this whole being a human thing and accidentally burns half of the page up, stumbles into a big meeting of Harfoots, and pisses everyone off. The Harfoots then discuss whether or not to decaravan the Brandyfoot family when they go to their new home because Harfoots apparently don't allow outsiders. Sadok Burrows decides, nah, it'll be fine, and allows the Brandyfoots to stay. But in the back, Nori's father, Largo, twisted and possibly broke his ankle, so they're worried that they'll be left behind. And yeah, we find out that the Harfoots are giant D-bags because if you fall behind, they leave your ass to die alone. Well, the wizard dude, who isn't supposed to be in Middle-earth at all by this time.
A wizard is never late, Frodo Baggins. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.
Helps to pull their cart, so they begrudgingly let him come along. There are no Harfoots on episode 4. Oh darn. We now rejoin Arondir, who's doing slave labor for orcs, along with his fellow elves of the Wall, digging underground passages so that the orcs can travel during the day. I guess sunlight burns them. His best bud falls victim to a good old-fashioned throat cutting because the elves don't want to cut down a tree. Why? Don't know. But Arondir agrees to cut down the damn tree, finally. Then they try to escape, crap hits the fan, and Arondir is the only survivor and gets taken to the leader of the orcs, Adar. Adar turns out to be a pale, scarred elf from the Elder Days. He loves the orcs, and they love him, for whatever reason. It's not really explained. He releases Arondir to take an offer of surrender to the humans taking refuge in the Orc Tower. Before he's released, however, Bronwyn is, for some reason, leading her group of humans, and those humans didn't plan ahead and bring food. So her son Theo and his buddy go back to their town to get some food. Theo takes Sauron's sword hilt for some reason, and the orcs that are now in the town know it. His buddy books it, leaving Theo alone, and then Arondir shows up and saves Theo from losing his arm at the last second, right before running Theo through the woods and to safety, catching arrows and shooting them back at the orcs. You know, as you do. Joining the other elves, Celebrimbor's tower oven thing is being constructed. Elrond is going back to Khazad-dûm to, I guess, ask for more dwarves to help them, and finds out that Prince Durin IV is being pretty secretive about some project. Elrond finally gets it out of Durin that they've opened up a mine to get a new metal that they found called Mithril. Remember Mithril from the Lord of the Rings movies? It's compared to silver, but is stronger and lighter than steel. Either way, the mine starts to collapse, and Durin IV helps to save the dwarves that are inside of it. It's not explained why, but Prince Durin says that he's mad at King Durin III, but he eventually swallows his pride and goes to apologize to him for not listening to his father's warnings about the mine, I guess. Durin III says that there's nothing to forgive, and he embraces his son. This was all confusing for me and needed a lot more explaining. Finally, we go to Galadriel and Halbrand. They were picked up by a ship captained by Elendil, who takes them to Numenor. Apparently, human-elf relations in Numenor aren't great, and most people reject the idea of an elf being there. We'll get to that. Queen Regent Lady Boss Muriel and bratty teenager Galadriel get into a measuring contest, and then Muriel denies Galadriel's request for a ship back to Middle-earth. Elendil, who would eventually go on to be the king of Gondor and is actually a big deal, gets dressed down multiple times by Queen Regent Lady Boss. Also, when Galadriel won't stay freaking put for 3 damn days and keeps trying to escape, she literally threatens to murder Elendil until he invites her to Numenor's Hall of Lore. Then they go on a little horseyback ride, and then
What the fuck?
Galadriel discovers that the Mark of Sauron is actually a map of the Southlands, which evil forces are clearly about to turn into Mordor. She also learns that Halbrand, who got thrown into jail for beating the piss out of some Numenorians, oh my god! But anyway, he's the king of the Southlands. Sure. We also go on to meet Elendil's son, Isildur, who will go on to cut the One Ring off the hand of Sauron and not toss it into Mount Doom like a good boy. Well, here he's in the Numenorian Navy, basically, and has his head in the clouds, which gets him and his buddies kicked out. He's got a sister named Arian, who is not in the books, is 100% made up, and is basically there to argue with her dad and see things go down. I literally had to look her name up because I didn't care about her in the slightest. Anyway, there are also some pretty heavy-handed political messages going down regarding anti-immigration, xenophobia, isolationism, and nationalism against globalism being carried out as Numenorians are all, these elves are going to come in and take our jobs. Then Chancellor Pharazôn is basically like, nah, it'll be fine, and reassures all the city folk that the humans won't allow the elves to take over. Now back to bratty, overly emotional teenager Galadriel, who gets into another measuring contest with Queen Regent Lady Boss Miriel, threatens to go to her daddy, the king, if she doesn't get what she wants, and then promptly gets her ass tossed in jail. Diplomacy at its finest from Galadriel. Episode 4 was titled The Great Wave because Lady Boss Miriel had a vision of Numenor sinking beneath the sea after a giant tidal wave swallowed the entire city whole. This will eventually happen. Galadriel ends up breaking out of jail, overpowering multiple guards single-handedly like a damn Terminator, and then breaking into the king's room, only to find out that he's been sick and dying for a long time. Galadriel then has a chat with Miriel, seeing the vision of the tidal wave herself, and then convinces Miriel to wage war against the orcs, and then getting everything she friggin' wanted by doing nothing right from the get-go. Final opinions time. Episode 4 was better than Episode 3, but not by much. The show is not exciting, really. The lore breaking is really getting to me. Galadriel just gets more and more insufferable and unlikable with every passing episode. The actress who plays Galadriel, Morfydd Clark, obviously heard the criticism, as she has recently said that Galadriel will get humbled at some point. I'll believe it when I see it. She's far from the only issue with the series, however, but I just haven't seen a single redeeming quality about her character, to be honest. I'm a huge Tolkien fan, and this is really bumming me out because it's so damn boring most of the time. I'm not giving up, though, and I'm hoping that it drastically improves in the second half of the season. Who else is watching? Please leave a like, a comment, and consider subscribing to the channel, and share this around with everyone you know. I've been Troy, and thanks for joining me on Marks on TV.